Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all well. It's a Saturday morning, it's quite early, and I just thought I'd come along and create another simple video so that we've got something to create over the bank holiday should you want something to inspire you. If you're not out in the garden, it's a bit dull this morning, but it might cheer up. I've heard the weather's supposed to be picking up, so I thought I'd create this video for those of you that are looking for inspiration over the bank holiday weekend. So what I've got here is I've got a 6.5 inch square piece of card, and I've also got a piece 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. So I've got two pieces of Pink Frog smooth white card. Any smooth white card will be absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some low tack tape just to the edges. Do you know, if I'm not on camera, I can get it straight away. But of course, if you're on camera, it's not going to be that easy, is it? So I'm just going to lay the low tack tape just around the edges of my card. So you go quiet because it takes all your concentration first thing in the morning to place low tack tape down. I'll tell you, it takes every ounce of concentration just to lay that low tack tape down. So I'm just laying that down. I'll just move that out of the way at the moment. Just place that down there. I can lift this up if I wish, because I can just remove the low tack tape. So what I'm going to do then is just have this on the side. I'm trying to keep everything in camera, but it's not always enough space. So I'm just going to lay low tack tape just on the top of this one as well, all the way around the edges. And I'm just using Scotch removable tape. You can use your masking tape and make it low tack, or you can use your washi tape just to hold, you know, just to mask off the areas. So it doesn't matter one bit what you use. The only thing you have to remember is that if you use low tack tape and you leave it stuck down for a while before you remove it, then one, it's going to leave a residue, and two, it might rip your card. So you don't want to leave it on there, you know, you don't want to sort of disappear overnight and leave it on there. So you just need to be aware of that. So just add that there. That's why I use the Scotch removable tape. But then you shouldn't leave any of it sort of overnight really, because then you're asking for trouble for it to not remove nicely. So what I've got next is I've got a very small gel printing press, and it's one of these little petites, and I think it's 3 inches. Do they tell us the size? I'm sure it's 3 inches. I'm sure it's 3 inches because the square was 3 inches. Yes, it's 3 inches there right in front of me. So it's a little 3-inch circle. Now it doesn't matter what gel press you use, because you can use anything of your choice. You can just use part of a bigger gel press. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my Neuron stencil, a stencil by ABS. And what I'm going to do is just hold that in place, just with a piece of low tack tape, just so that doesn't move. You watch, it'll take me ages to remove all this low tack tape. So just so that it doesn't move, I'm going to have to move it onto my other card, or shall I use a different stencil for the other card? Shall we use a little bit of a different stencil? Which stencil shall we use for this one? So on this one, no, we don't want, I just want a general pattern. So this is one by Olga, and I can't remember the name. I'll have to find the name. The name escapes me, so I'll have to find the name. But what you want, and I'll add the name in the description box. But what you want is you want something that's got a little bit of a pattern to it. So let's see if this one will work. So let's just hold that in place as well, just so that we're not worried about it moving. So we'll just hold that stencil in place as well. There we go. So what I've got is I've got my 3-inch little gel press, which if we just get a piece of scrap paper, you can just see that gel press on there, just so you can see that circular gel press. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with some VersaFine Clairs. So I'm using VersaFine Clair, Warm Breeze and Bluebell. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the gel press like an ink pad. And I'm going to add some of that ink over my gel press. So I've got the VersaFine Clair Warm Breeze, and what you'll notice is that because this is a new gel press and it's never been used, it beads up, but that's okay for this technique. It's not too much of a problem because you just want it to be just added to the background, so it doesn't matter too much for this technique. So I'm just finding a little piece of cut and dry foam. Now let me show you what I mean by it's beading up. Let's grab that copy paper. And what you need to do for that is when you get a new gel press, what you do is put a piece of copy paper on it and leave that copy paper for a few hours on top of the gel press, and it just absorbs some of those layers during the manufacturing process, and it just makes it easier to use when you use it for the first time. But what I tend to do is I tend to use it. Using it makes it more usable. It actually gets better and better. So I'm just dabbing this with my piece of cut and dry foam, just so that it's got no harsh lines, because we've added some harsh lines with that ink pad. I'm just dabbing that out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this onto my background. Okay, so I'm just going to press this like you would a stamp over the stencil, exactly like you would a stamp set. So just lifting that up. Okay, and then I don't need the stencil on the other side. Of course I don't. So we don't need that stencil on the other side. Let me just remove that. Let me just remove that stencil. What am I thinking? You can tell my brain's not working first thing in the morning. You don't need that stencil on the other side, because what you've got, let's just get the copy paper. Let me grab this copy paper, because now you've got the pattern imprinted on the gel press. And what we're going to do is we're going to do something second generation. So we're going to apply this to this card, second generation. Okay. So just allow that to sit on there and then just lift. And we're just going to leave that on there like that. So we're just adding little bits. So what we're going to do then is we're going to just add the light colour this time. So we're just going to add Warm Breeze all over the gel press, so that you've got it all over there. So you can see the whole, it's just that one colour, just that one colour. And then I'm going to take Bluebell and just go a little bit around the edges, just so it looks a little bit different. And I'm inking the whole gel press because I don't know which part of the gel press I'm going to use. And sometimes I'm going to add a whole circle, sometimes I'm not. And I can't, the edge is here, so I can't quite see. So it's adding a little bit more, a little bit less. So I'm just pressing that onto the stencil. Just remove that. And then we've got the pattern on here. So this one, we'll just add part of it, because we want each one to look a little bit different. Well, I do. Just lift that up. And the actual, because it's beading up, that's actually adding to the texture of the design. So with your gel press, when you're using yours won't bead up because it's not a new gel press. Yours will just be smooth. So that's absolutely fine. So the more you use the gel press, the better it gets. And even if you've got a spare piece of card here, even if you've got a third piece of card, you would still get part of a print. Let me just show you that. I'm just holding that in my hand. You'd still get part of a print. So it's just to show you that there's plenty of ink on there. And what I'm going to do this time is just add the lighter colour all over my gel press, which is the Warm Breeze. And then I'm just going to add little touches of the dark. And then because I don't want those lines on there, I'm just going to dab over, just using my cut and dry foam. Just dab it over so that we've got no, you could also use your brayer. You can use your brayer over the top. So I'm going to add a little bit here, like that. And then I'm going to add a little bit to this card. So what I'm hoping is that when we remove the low tack tape, we'll have a nice border and it'll look really nice. So as I say, because this is a new gel press, the more you use it, the better it gets. So just class it, if you're using a new gel press, I just class it as a different background. The more you use it, the smoother it gets. But you can add that copier paper if you wish to your gel press. But I'm just going to treat this as a background, which is perfect for me. So no problem at all. So what I'm going to do, have I got a circle big enough? No, so that's fine. I don't want to, I'm just checking and thinking as I go along, and I don't want to add too much in the background. I don't want to add too much detail in the background. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ink it up again with the Warm Breeze. So I'm using that Warm Breeze. And then just touches of that blue bell. And the blue bell's quite a dark colour. Just dabbing that, just to make sure that we've got no harsh lines. And then I'm going to come in a little bit more here, like so, and press that down. And then just lift that. And then we've got exactly the same here. So we can just add a little bit there. And hold that down. So we've got little parts of an image that we're adding here. So I've still got ink on there, but I'm not going to do another print. So we'll just grab, somebody has taken my wipes, which is very handy. Let's just use these. It's going to take me longer to open the wipes than anything else. Let's just place that on there. Just wipe your gel press. And just give that a wipe. what I'm going to do is, like I said before, I'm just going to place some copier paper on that gel press, and I'm just going to leave it on there while we're playing. And then I'm going to take another piece of copier paper, and what we're going to do is we're just going to blot, just to make sure that we don't get in too much of a mess. So just blot your ink, because obviously it's not going to dry on that low tack tape, but we're going to remove that low tack tape. So I'm just going to wipe up a little bit of this, just so that we don't get in a mess. Just remove some of that ink from the low tack tape. Just removing it because I'm going to do a little bit of blending. So I don't want this ink to end up over the card. It's only a little bit. On this. A little bit on that. Right. And what I'm going to do is just grab a pale colour, so some broken china. But before we do that, we're going to remove this stencil. Do I need to just remove it just while you give it a little dry? So because we've stuck that stencil down, we've got a bit of a hinge. So we're just going to give that a dry. Just so that we're not going to get in a total mess. Let's see how wet that is. It shouldn't be too wet because that card's quite absorbent, so it's fine. So what I'm going to do now is bring this stencil back down. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be in exactly the same place, none of that matters. So we're just going to give that stencil a clean. Should be. So you just need to spend a bit of time cleaning that stencil, just to remove some of that ink. You've used an oil-based ink, so it's going to stain the stencil a little bit. Just going to place that stencil back over the top. It hasn't got to be lined up or anything. That doesn't matter one jot. And what I'm going to do is take some of the broken china distress oxide. So we've got the broken china distress oxide, and I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that ink, just so there's a little bit on there. Just going to hold that stencil in place, and then I'm just going to blend a little bit of colour over the stencil in some of those white areas, just a touch in the background, just where those white areas are. So just give it a little, just a little light stenciling. That is absolutely fine. We don't need too much stenciling. So again, on this one, just add a little bit of stenciling to the background, very lightly, just in our other one. Just make sure, yes, we've got a little bit of stenciling, that's all we need. You'll see it more when we actually remove the low tack tape. So let's remove the low tack tape. Do I want some stamping as well? You see, you need to decide if you want any stamping at this stage, just because you don't want to remove the low tack tape in case you go over the lines. If you remove the low tack tape and you go over the lines, it's not going to work. So I'm just going to use my Numerator stamp, because because I just like the randomness of the numerator. And I'm just going to use the Warm Breeze ink and just add a little bit of random stamping. You don't want it to be, you know, perfect. You want it to be quite random. So just add a little bit of stamping. Oh yes, just a little bit here and there, just to add to your background. So I'll just add a little bit of that just in the background on this side. Just to add to your background detail, that's all you're doing. You don't want much and you don't want too much. So on the other card, the second one, we're just going to add a little bit. I always forget where I've inked. So just a little bit of stamping to the second card. There we go. And you don't need much more. So let's just give that a dry. Just put the lid on the ink pad. I'm just giving that a dry because it's layer over layer. And what we're going to do is remove our low-tack tape. And as you know, I always forget which one I've put down first, which piece of low-tack tape I've put down first. So it's this one for the stencil. And that one. Just pull it towards you very gently. I never get them in the right order that I've pulled them off when I pull them off. Just move those out of the way. So I hope you've all got something nice planned for the bank holiday, whether you're resting or anything like that. And what we're just going to do is I'm just going to give my hands a little wipe, just so that we don't get the card in a mess, just because I've got a little bit of blue ink all over my hands. So let's just like so, just so that we've got our background. And let's remove this one. Them out my hand. I love how you've got a lovely white border around the outside. It just lifts the whole design. Just appeals to me when you've got that. So let me just show you those backgrounds, just so you can see. And this one, so you can see the backgrounds. So quite nice backgrounds. They look kind of novel with the backgrounds. So it's entirely up to you if you add the stenciling in the background. You can just leave it white if you wish, without adding the blue Distress Oxide stenciling. You can just leave that white if you wish. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just having a look at what size circle. So let me see what size circle. So we can add a circle or we can add our characters. I think I'm going to add a character to one. So what I'm going to do is take my little bear for one of them. I've got his little arms. Look, let's see if we can remember to keep his arms. Just move that out the way. Just keep those little arms. Oh, crikey, I can't pick them up. and then just grab a scrap of card. And I'm just going to ink that bear in VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. I'm just giving him a good layer of ink with a light tapping motion. The VersaFine Clair has got a good open time, so it gives me plenty of time to ink that stamp and stamp with it. Just add the bear, and then what we'll do, we'll give him a little heart. So what I'm going to do is just add those arms just over the top, just so I can make it look like he's holding the heart. So just add those over the top, like so, and then just take that little heart, ink that up, and just add that over the top. Just so that he's holding that heart. Keep those little hands, because I can colour that heart in blue just to match the background as well. Just so you can see that, you can see that he's holding that. And I'm just going to add a little bit of grey to the bear, and then I'll colour the heart blue. So just grabbing my paper stump. Whoops. Just grab my paper stump and my HB pencil. Well, it's under here somewhere. So I'm just going to give that pencil a little bit of a sharpen. I'll do that after. But we're just going to add a little bit of shading to our little bear. Just add a little bit. And I can remove the scribbly lines with the paper stump. So that's not a problem. I can blend it with the paper stump. You can actually blend with your finger as well. But I'm just scribbling that colour, that grey on there. I love doing this. Just find it so therapeutic. Especially when the whole house is quiet and everybody's asleep. It's quite nice. So I'm just going to leave a little bit of an open area, just so that keeps the lightness. And then I'm just going to blend this out. And why have I not coloured his arms? Nobody knows. Obviously I like missing the arms out for some reason. So I'm just blending that pencil out. And it's a lovely way just to add a little bit of shading to your bear. So I didn't scribble any pencil in the central area, just so that I can keep that lighter than the rest. Just so it gives some lightness to the bear. So it just smooths it all out. And then when I blend it out here, it's lighter. So it just gives an open, lighter area. So what I'm going to do now is just add a little bit of shading around the heart. Just down by the arms, which need a little bit more colour anyway, because they look a little bit anemic. add a little bit of shading just around that heart there, just around his nose. And I'm going to leave his nose white so it pops. Just a little bit of shading to the tail. And I'm just going to blend this out. Just blend that out. Just around the heart as well. I will show you what this looks like a little bit closer up. Just so that you can see, there's a little bit darker shading here and around the heart and around his nose. But we still need to add a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more depth. A little bit of shading around there and a little bit around here. I'm going to go back around the heart just to give it even more shading, just so it pops a little bit. And then a little bit more around his nose. And again, I'll blend that out. I always love how this looks. Simple technique, but so effective. Just look at that, how that looks. I think that looks lovely. So let's add a little bit of blue to his little heart. So I'm going to use polychromo pencils just to do that. So I'm just using a couple of blue pencils. It doesn't matter which you use. So I'm just going to add a touch of blue to his heart. So I'm just adding a light layer. You can hardly see it in camera, but we don't want to add too much pigment down too soon, because then we've got nowhere to go. You can't take it away, but you can keep adding it. It's much easier that way. So just adding . And I'm just leaving a white area in the middle of the heart, just so it pops a little bit more. Again, a little bit of that dark blue, just around the edges. So therapeutic. Just doing this a little bit. I think I've got a little bit of ink on my hands. Let's just give that a wipe, because I can see it on the side of my card. So always make sure your hands are clean. So just going over that heart and taking my time just to blend that out. A little bit more depth. Just around the heart. And if you use sharp pencils, it makes it a lot easier. And you can blend these out with Zest It or baby oil, but I just tend to do pencil to pencil, just so that you can see the little heart. I love his little nose being white. It's quite cute, that is. So what we're going to do is cut the little bear out, and I'm going to leave a little white border, because I just think with it being blue and white, it'll pop. So I'm just going to leave a little white border. Just go round, and it's so easy to cut out. as always, it just depends on the project whether I leave a white border or not. There we go. A little bit too much of a white border there. That's better. And you have to try and not go quiet when you're cutting out. But let's just bring that little bear up. Isn't he lovely? Such a lovely bear. Let's move that baby wipe out of the way. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a clean piece of, yes, what's this called? Copier paper. Just to make sure that background, yes, the background's absolutely fine, because the bear is going to go on here, like so. But I want to add some washi tape. And I want to use my cut, tear and layer washi tape. Just to add some washi. Just to grounding a little bit. I'm just tearing that, just to ground my little bear. Just to add to the edges. Don't want it too long. I'm trying to work with, that's better, so just tear that, because I don't want it too long. Just a little bit more of the washi. Just to add it over the top, just so it doesn't look too straight. So it looks more layered. There we go. Because the little bear will go on here like this. Then I just want one of my pens. Let me make sure that I've got the right pen. So a micron pen. And what I'm going to do is just go around my aperture that I've created. Just going to go around this with a black micron pen. Doesn't matter whether it's a Sharpie pen, whether it's a biro. It really doesn't matter. You can go around with anything you wish. So just going around that. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more detail. Just going around again. Just doing little doodly scribbly line. Not on the bottom, but what I'm going to do is just add a few of these. Let me just hold that up so you can see. Just a few of these doodly scribbly lines. So just a little scribble of a dash. So just go around and just add those little doodles. It just adds a little bit more interest to the card. Just go around. Another way of relaxing is just adding a few little doodles to your card. It's a lovely way just to switch off. Especially if, like me, you're sitting in the house on your own, or your other half is watching the TV. Lovely way to relax. I'm hoping to do a bit of gardening today. That's the plan anyway, she says. So my little bear is going to go here, like so. You can have it either side, but mine's going to go here, like so. He will go there, and I think we'll just add some black cotton just to give a little bit more texture. Just to the background of the bear. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a little bit of a number to the bear. So I'm going to use my Numerator stamp, which I can't pick up at all. Just go and pick up the Numerator stamp. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that Warm Breeze, ink up this number 3. And then what I'm going to do is stamp that onto a piece of card, just to get rid of the first generation ink. And then I'm just going to take and add the second generation ink to the bear. That's it. Just so that you've got the second generation ink to the little bear. I'm then going to adhere that. Just add a little bit of cotton, a little bit of adhesive just behind the cotton, just so that when I stick the bear down, it just grabs. Just add in there, like so. And I'll just use that copier paper just to press him down. Just to press my little bear down. Just move him so he's nice and straight. We want a straight bear. We want a little bit of adhesive just below his foot there. Just because that cotton is just catching, so he's not sticking. Just hold that down a few moments, because your cotton, you've got that texture of your cotton behind your bear, and it just stops it from sticking for a few moments. Just hold it down. Oh, he looks lovely. Just take a little bit more washi. And I'm just going to add just a little bit. I don't want to go outside the lines, because I want to keep those sharp lines of the border. So I'm just keeping those. Just use my scissors just to start off that washi tape, and add a couple more little textures, just a little bit more. Okay, then we're going to add some white splatters. And then we're going to grab the card. So we're going to add this to a black mat, which will make it pop a little bit more. So just add that like so. Just make sure you've got one edge straight, and then you can get the other edges straight. So just add that to the card. Hey, that bear's fighting against me, doesn't want to stick down. And then I've got a white card. Let's just make sure we're working on a clean surface, because there's nothing worse than ruining your card by putting it on a dirty surface. Just place that on the background, like so. I always think it looks so much more professional once it's added to a card blank. Just think it looks so much better. So there's our first card. It just looks a lot better when you've got all those textures. I want to add a sentiment, so I'm going to grab my friendship sentiment, because I love that one. I've got them many. I'm working in inch of space again. I do it every single time. I never change. So, friendship sentiment. Little scrap of card. And we'll stamp that in black just so it pops against the background. And you could send this to a friend just to say you're thinking of them, or just to say hello. So there's the friendship. Just cut that out. And I'm cutting it quite close so that I've not got too thick of a sentiment, just so that it doesn't work against what I've already done, because nothing on this is too overpowering or too bulky. So I'm just going to add that friendship. Like so. To the background. Just giving that a couple of seconds just to grab hold. Just let that grab hold. And this time what I'm going to do is just to highlight that sentiment. I'm just going to go around with my micron pen, and I'm just going to add a couple of doodly lines just around the sentiment, just to highlight it a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more of a highlight, because I don't want anything too overpowering with that. So just added a couple of doodly lines because I like the freshness of the card. I think it looks lovely. So let's look at that second background. Let's just move some of this. This is there's just a mess everywhere. Let's move some of these stamps out of the way just so that we can actually see what we're doing. So that's our first card. Let's just move that out the way. Place that down here. Now let's bring in this one that we did before. So again, whoops. I'm just going to go around and just add some doodly lines just around the square. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just to add those doodly lines. It can just be just a little doodle, just to highlight the fact that we've got an aperture. So just don't even think about it when you're doing the doodles. You don't want to think about it too much. The idea is they are doodles. And the idea is they aren't perfect. And when you look at it as the whole, it's when you look at the whole picture that it all comes together. You don't look at one part. You look at it as a whole. And it always looks better when you look at it as a whole. So just adding those doodles because these two cards then coordinate nicely together. A little bit of fluff there, like you do. There's always a bit of fluff hanging around somewhere. And you're not thinking about how many you're adding. You're just doing it quite randomly. If you don't want to do these kind of doodles, you can use your handwriting and just doodle around the outside edges, whichever you prefer. And I like using the micron pens. They've got different widths, so they work for me. So what I'm going to do then is, what I'm thinking is the hibiscus will look nice against there. Not that I can pick it up. So we'll just grab the hibiscus stamp. Ask me what I did with the acrylic block. I dumped it down with the rest of everything else, of course. So let's just take a look at this. So if I place this down here now, it's going to get a little bit lost. So we just need some plain, a plain circle. So what I've done is I've drawn around a lid or a jar, or you can just draw around an aperture that you've got from a die cut piece. This is around about 2 3/4 inches in width, this circle. So just going around there. And it's nice if it does look like a circle. That's better. I'm just going to distress those edges a little bit on the circle. Just give those a distress. Just distress those a little. And what you'll notice is that this will make, it'll give it a white background. So then when I add this, it will pop a little bit more when I add the hibiscus. So just move this out of the way a little bit. So then we'll grab some white card and let's stamp the hibiscus. And I'm just giving it a good inking because there's lots of detail on that stamp. And we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure that we pick up all that detail. So I'm just allowing that ink to rest on the card just to make sure that it absorbs into the card. There's no point stamping it and then just placing it down and lifting it up because you're just not going to get a good impression. So light pressing. You can lift the acrylic block if you need to, but you shouldn't need to on this stamp set. But you can lift these acrylic blocks by AALLandCreate. And if you let it rest on there, then you get a really good impression. Let's just leave that there in case I want more than one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those polychromo pencils again, and I'm just going to add some colour to my hibiscus. And we're going to have a blue hibiscus because that coordinates with my background, and I'm sort of going for that china look. You know, the old-fashioned blue china that we got. I always think, whenever I use blue, I always think of china that we used to get years ago in plates and cups and saucers. Yes, I'm showing my age, but it just reminds me of that when I use blue. So I'm just adding light layers of that colour. You can use your alcohol markers, whichever you want, or you can use your Ecoline pens if you're on the right card. As long as you're on the right card, you can use your Ecoline pens. But I do find it easier to lay down that pigment if I've got a sharp pencil. And we all colour in different ways. Just adding a little bit more of that pigment. And I like to colour in a nice simple way that still looks effective, and I don't want to cover up all of that white. I want to leave some of the white of the hibiscus just so it pops a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of this darker colour just around the edges here. And if you want, you could add some yellow to the stamens, but I just want to keep it blue and white, just because that's the project that I'm going for. So I'm just adding a little bit more pigment, just where it'd be a little bit darker, just around these dark areas here. Well, I hope it's going to cheer up a little bit more than it is at the moment. It's very dull. And just apply that pigment, and I'm just lightly adding it. And then I'm just going to blend a little bit more with the lighter colour. But I'm not going to the end of the hibiscus. I want to leave some of those touches of white. Just makes it pop a little bit more for me. Just add a little bit more of that darkness here. You would spend a lot longer than I am actually colouring your image. And it is worth it. People do notice if you spend a bit of time colouring properly. It just gives a little bit more depth to your design, just so that you can see just that. Just a little bit more of that darkness. And then we'll give that a cut out. And I'm going to leave a little white border just around the hibiscus as well. Just to add to that freshness of the design. Sometimes a white border is just what you want, just to make things pop and give it some freshness. And I'm just going around the pollen, just a suggestion of the pollen. And it looks nice, this does, just when it's on its own and there's nothing in the background and you just colour the hibiscus and nothing else. It looks lovely when you do that. There we go. Let's move that out of the way. Let's bring in our card. So you see this will go against this just so that it pops. And if you wanted, you could add, let's bring in the acetate, you could add another little hibiscus, which would look quite nice. So let's just stamp another one. Grab a piece of white card. Let's just move this out of the way. Just need a little bit more space. Let's grab that hibiscus again. I think it's always worth doing something right. You know, if you need an extra one, or even if you don't use it, you've then got it for another project. Just take that hibiscus again, and again allowing that to sit on there. Like so. Where's my... Let's just add a little bit of colour, as we've done before, just to the hibiscus. I won't spend too long colouring this, because obviously it's not very interesting, you watching me colour. But I would like to add a little bit of colour, just to the design. I tend to move my card rather than trying to get my hand in funny angles. I do move the card just to make it easier for me. Just when I'm colouring that in, I do tend to twist the card. And just adding layers of that pigment. I've got bits of washi tape everywhere, so everything keeps sticking to the washi tape. So you could spend a good half an hour just colouring your images, just to give them that depth, just so that they look beautiful. And the more depth you give them, the better. I know some of you are fantastic with alcohol markers, so these work beautifully with the alcohol markers. But just because I'm doing a video, I'm not going to do something that's shoddy. I still want to make sure that we get a reasonably good colour on the hibiscus. So just add a little bit more of that lighter colour. And as I did with the first one, I'm leaving some of that white just on the hibiscus, just to make it pop a little bit more. And it's got a lovely amount of detail on there with the stamping. With the stamp. The stamp's got quite a bit of detail on, which makes it a little bit more interesting. Just blend that out, and let's cut out the hibiscus again. Again, leaving a white border, and it doesn't matter if once you've cut it out, if you decide, no, I don't want a second, it doesn't matter, you've got that for another project. But it's nice to just play around a little bit and just play with the design that you're working with and just see what you're happy with. And it's a simple image to cut out, which is good. I love fussy cutting, but I know some of you don't like fussy cutting. But I do actually like fussy cutting. I do find it therapeutic. It's like anything though, isn't it? If you've got the time and there's no stress, then fussy cutting can be very relaxing, as long as you're not having to rush what you're doing. So yes, I've got lots of deadlines next week and new releases imminent. So got to get all prepared for that. I keep putting things on top of each other. So what I'm going to do is just see, you see, I like the two with that pop of white underneath. Right, let's have a little play. So let's add this circle. Just making sure there's plenty on there. Just lift the circle up a bit just so we're going to see that. Then the hibiscus, let's just flick it out the way, is going to go like that. Let's grab some black cotton. What to do with the black cotton? Did I put it back? I must have put it back. I don't know which one it is now. Let me make sure it's this. You see, there's one cotton I've got that just doesn't break. So I end up nearly ripping my hands off. So just grabbing some of that cotton. Just spread it out a little bit. Just so that it's going to show, so that we can see those fibres when those hibiscus are put down. So just spread them out a little bit. Just put a little bit of adhesive here and there so that when we lay the hibiscus down, it actually sticks. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place that in one, I'm not even going to press it down, just so that I can get the position of the hibiscus quite right. Needs to be right. So we'll just add those layers like so. Just add those there. Just press that down. Just press that down with the copier paper, because if you press it down with the copier paper, it just makes sure that it sticks nicely. Oh, I'm liking those two hibiscus together like that. Just think they look lovely. So what I'm going to do now is add a little bit of washi tape. I think I had a little bit left actually, just as I've torn this. So just add a little bit of washi, just to the just to add a little bit of texture to my design. Getting it straight is often a nice advantage, but I don't want it over the edge of my project because that defeats the object. So a little bit more of that texture from the washi, like so. And then I'm going to add a little bit, like I did on the other card, just on the corner here. Just add a little bit there. A little bit more. I do like faffing with the washi a little bit. That looks like I've had a night on the tiles. It's not straight. I can't leave that. That's better. That's better. So we've got a little bit of the washi, just so that you can see that. Then I'm going to add some splatters of white. because I like those white splatters. Then what I'm going to do is go back to the same stamp set. And let's move these pencils out of the way so we can actually see what we're doing. And we're going to use that hibiscus sentiment. Again, I've got washi tape sticking everywhere. So we've got this nice hibiscus sentiment. Well, text, isn't it? Let's just add that, and we're going to stamp that in black. And I like the black because that pops with all the blue. And we keep the background white because that adds to the brightness of the design. Let's cut that out. Let's chuck it on the floor like we always do. Tracy chucks everything on the floor. Let's just get rid of some of that white card. And the hibiscus sentiment is going here, like so. So we'll just take that hibiscus. Just tuck it behind the little pollen. Just allow that to sit on there. Just give it a couple of seconds just to grab hold. Just take a couple of seconds just to grab hold. Just to put that on my glue. And then what I'm going to do is just grab my water brush and water. Hopefully a little bit of water there. And just go around this one because that background's a little bit busier, just with an Inktense pencil. And now I'm chucking all the little bits of acetate on the floor, and I'll be looking for them later. Do you ever lose those pieces of acetate and you just can't find them? I do that all the time. So just blend that out. And I like that the cotton texture is caught just behind the sentiment as well. So that looks quite nice. Just so that you can see, and we can still see all that detail in the background. Just add a little bit, just around this bit here, just so it pops a little bit more. So a little bit of Inktense pencil just around that circular bit. And then what I'm going to do is just move these out of the way, just because we've got so many stamp sets now. If we just move them out the way, we just end up where we've got a little bit more space to bring in something else. So let's just move these out the way. And we've got a little bit more room. Just so that I can bring in a little character. So we're going to bring in the little rabbit. So let's just wipe up that bit of moisture. Bring in that little rabbit from the Up Up an away stamp set. I want a scrap of card. Just grab that scrap of card. Take my little rabbit. Again, even though it's a small stamp, I still let it just have a few seconds just to soak into that background. Just put him back so we don't lose him. And then what we're going to do is just shade him a little bit, just with a HB pencil. Just a little bit of shading. Leave a white area. So a nice little bit of, we like a bit of scribbling, don't we? Then we can just blend that out with our paper stump. There's something about arms. I just don't colour the arms for some reason. I do it on every single character. I leave the arms and I'm like, why are you leaving the arms? Don't ask me why I do it. Just adding a little bit more shading. It is a little bit strange, isn't it, how I keep leaving the arms. Perhaps I've got something against arms. Just adding a little bit more shading here and there. And of course, we're going to have a little blue dicky bow. Just because it's a must. We're doing a blue card. We've got to have a blue dicky bow. Of course we have. And the little rabbit is going to have a little white border as well. Again, if you're ever struggling with cutting out, leave a little white border, and then it makes it easier for you to cut out fine detail, and you're not too stressing too much if you cut a little bit off, because you've left a little border and there's less chance of doing that. I've now got an itch. Like that. Cut that out. There we go. And what we're going to do is add our little bunny rabbit here. And this time I don't want him to have a top hat because I don't want to cover up the beautiful hibiscus. But I do want to add the little rabbit. Like so. Just holding that down just so that it grabs hold. Just so that you can see the little rabbit. Bless him. Little rabbit. He's lovely. So what I'm going to do then is just add this to a black mat, because it'll pop a little bit more when it's added to a black mat. This card, because it's 6.5 inches wide, it's too wide for my hands. I can't hold it. It's a long time since I've done a square card, so it's nice just to do one, just for a change. Just add that touch there. And again, as with everything, I just let that adhesive just grab hold before I add the next layer, before I add the next mat. Just let it grab a hold. Then bring in my copier paper just so that we're working on a clean surface. And then I've got a 7" by 7" card blank. Don't forget, if you want to add an insert, add a little insert, a little suggestion of an insert. I've kept you long enough, so I won't add the insert now. But you can add a little insert with a little suggestion of something that's on the front. Just make sure we've got that. There it goes, it pops. The minute you add it to the black mat and the white card, it looks so much more professional. Let's just bring in the other card because I just want to add another little touch. Just so you can see these, let's just grab another little touch. Let's just move this out of the way so that we don't get the glue. Just reaching for my little index clips. Just got these index clips just to add another little touch, just to finish them off. I'm always amazed at how long things take me. Even to create a simple card, it always takes me a while. Mind you, we've created 2 cards, haven't we? That's not too bad. And that is your cards finished, especially if you've got your index clip actually straight, which I haven't. So this is your bear one, and I do think he does look lovely. He really does look sweet. You can see all the detail in the background. So there's your first one, and then this is your second card with the little bunny there. And I didn't want to add any grey Inktense pencil around here because I don't want it to go over here, so I've just left that just so that you can see that detail. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it inspires you to maybe create a little bit of something over the bank holiday or even next week. I hope you all have a wonderful bank holiday, a lovely break and some family time. And I'll see you all soon. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.